This program is produced by Eagle Mountain Apostolic Resource Center. To find additional episodes of this program, as well as other content, visit eaglemountain.tv.
I'm going on record right now, I've never had a harebrained idea.
He's had lots of ideas that have hair on them.
Did you just say I've had lots of ideas with hair on them?
Yes. Okay.
Oh my goodness. What?
The devil?
I found him.
Why am I not surprised that he's in here?
He's over here in this bucket. There he is. Mr. Sin! Not bothering us anymore.
How are you doing there, Foxy?
Such a beef wit.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Mr. Sin. You can't talk to me like that. You don't have to be rude.
I said beef wit.
Beef wit, that's even worse. No, I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of finding out what you're doing after this show. Maybe we could go grab some drinks or something. What do you say?
No thanks.
Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Kris Behnke. I'm here with Prudence O'Haire, and this is going to be, I think this is going to be a pretty good one. We're going to dig into a message that was given by Kris Vallotton when he was here at Eagle Mountain. But before we do that, I have a question for you, Prudence. Mm-hmm. If you were a professional wrestler,
oh no,
what would the theme song be that would play when you came in to the arena? Prudence O'Haire. What theme song is playing?
Oh.
Buckley's gonna give it an approval or not.
I don't know. Probably that one. It was by Def Leppard or something.
Def Leppard.
Where We Will Rock You.
We will.
Yeah, that one.
Was that Def Leppard? Yeah, that's, what are you talking about?
I don't know who sang it.
I think if the guys from Def Leppard knew that you thought they were singing a Queen song, they wouldn't let you use that for your pro wrestling.
My brothers listen to all of that junk music. Okay. I didn't pay attention to it. I just remember some of the,
I think mine would be Thunderstruck. That's also from Queen. Just kidding. That's definitely AC/DC. And we don't recommend any of this music because it's all bad music.
It is trash.
But there wouldn't be any lyrics. It would just be that guitar solo. What do you think about that? Would that fit me coming in pro wrestling?
Probably.
Would I have to rip off my thing? What do they call those?
I don't know.
Singlet?
I'm not wanting to picture all of this right now.
It's a great question. If you were a pro wrestler, what would your entrance theme song be? And yours is Def Leppard singing a Queen song, which is fantastic. Okay, let's get into the trivia because we really need to get into this, the meat of this, because it's so good. But before we do that, we got to do the trivia. And so I think on the last episode, you did okay. You did medium. I'm no longer allowed to say you win, everyone.
Chris, just give us the question.
Definitely true.
Give us the question.
Okay. What color is a giraffe's tongue?
Oh, it's purple.
Nailed it. Giraffe's tongue is purple. What animal has stripes on its skin as well as its fur?
Zebra. Oh,
No, a tiger.
Is that tiger?
Tiger.
Oh.
You totally blew that.
Well,
I'm super disappointed. How do sea otters keep from drifting apart while they sleep?
they hold each other. They connect their little claws.
They connect.
Well, it's Velcro, actually. Never
Velcro?
mind. I'm changing my answer.
They hold hands. I'm giving that to you. It's definitely not Velcro. It's so cute. They hold hands so they don't drift apart. Their love language is definitely physical touch. What kind of turtle can't retract into its shell? This is the last question, by the way.
It's like the tortoise.
Can you be more specific?
The giant tortoise?
It says Sea Turtle Hill, but we all know that the answer is not sea turtle. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, yeah. Those definitely can't retract.
100%.
So
did you know that, Jason? 100%. I'm giving myself a cheer for Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and wait, you don't know Michelangelo, Donatello? Raphael, obviously. So let's move on. Do you have a word there? Do you have a word for us?
I'm going to open a spot blindly.
Oh my goodness. That is for sure not a good idea. That is for sure not a good idea.
Okay. How about this? Mentat. M-E-N-T-A-T.
Oh yeah, I know what that means.
You do?
Yeah, it's the sticky surface on the back of a tree.
A human being capable of performing mental tasks with the accuracy and speed of a computer.
That's the other definition.
Well, that isn't me. I'm definitely not.
If I was that, I would have gotten that correct. So it is a mentat, M-E-N-T-A-T. Mm-hmm. Somebody that can basically perform
next
like
time when you need to hire
a Windows computer, an Apple computer.
It didn't specify, but either one I'd say is pretty good.
I mean, they're definitely a big difference. 100%.
Okay. In your next advertisement for hiring someone,
we're looking for Apple level mentatness.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get to the actual real situation here. So we're talking about a message that Kris Vallotton gave when he was here in the fall. And it was super powerful. He's really talking about the faith that's required for where we're going. To some degree, he was talking specifically about Eagle Mountain, but he's also talking about just the church in general and where God is taking us in this next season. And I think we're entering a new place, just like globally, like as a humanity, where things are connected like they never have been before, where like there's this kind of awareness of what's happening in the world. I should say perceived awareness, because I think a lot of people are deceived. And I think a lot of what we see in the news is totally false and not true. But there's a perceived awareness of what's happening in the world, unlike anything we've ever experienced before. And I think as Christians, we've got a responsibility to step into this new world with a lot of faith, with a kind of a different kind of faith. So I have a couple of clips here from Kris, but as we kind of get into this, what are your thoughts about this, Prudence? Because I think, it's actually stuff we talk about a lot on this show, Together We Build, is this kind of stuff.
Well, I think that the topic of faith is really the biggie in a Christian's life.
Totally.
Like it's like the tree trunk for where everything else sprouts out of or something.
Right.
So you can't have, in my mind, too many messages and conversations about faith and how it's operating for you and what it's doing, because this is the thing that should never stop growing in all of us ever. And it's also, it seems to be the most difficult piece for us to exercise.
Yeah, which is crazy, but it's definitely true.
Yeah. So, so our whole life should be a life of faith. This is what he said. The righteous shall live by faith. Also, it is impossible to please God without faith. So, you can go ahead and be nice and be good and behave yourself, not get a speeding ticket. But if you don't have faith, so what?
To what end?
Right.
To what end?
Right.
Yeah. So just like strict obedience to the law doesn't get you much without faith. Mm-hmm. I think you saw that in Jesus's life during his ministry. He's going from town to town, and he was railing against the Pharisees over and over and over again in his ministry in the New Testament when you read about his specific ministry. And a lot of the times people are like, oh, those dirty Pharisees, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that for the most part, those guys were really pretty dialed as far as like following the rules and knowing them and all that stuff. But it was like hollow. It was like self-serving. And so without the faith component and without the relationship component, that other stuff is actually just self-serving, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a little bit crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's hear his first clip and see what he has to say.
For they shall be to us our prey. The word prey in Hebrew is the word daily bread. You know, when we're praying, our Father who's in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Remember that the 10 spies said we were like grasshoppers? Remember what John the Baptist did? He ate grasshoppers. Caleb said, listen, we saw those giants and they shall be to us our daily, we'll eat them for breakfast.
I love this because it's basically saying, hey, how often do we let fear overpower our faith and then we're not actually stepping forward into our promised land? Mm-hmm. Like, it's so easy to read the Old Testament and go, man, those guys, I can't believe they were chickening out. But like, we do that all the time.
Right? Yeah. We weren't the ones in that story, were we?
No. It's super
and
easy
yet
to...
we're like pointing fingers
I can't believe
them.
God's people. What a bunch of knuckleheads. We do the same thing.
Oh, yeah. And we do it on a much lower scale.
You mean the stakes weren't even as high?
Oh, no.
So you're saying we're bigger wieners than them?
Well, yes. Yeah. Obviously.
Giving us the no. That's not cool.
No.
But it's definitely true, unfortunately. And what Kris was saying in this part is like, hey, like God set this up. And if you just read the scripture, like we need to be thinking about this like God is already giving us provision to overcome the trials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another thing that he said in this message was faith is a fight, especially when it comes to miracles.
Yeah.
Everyone deals with doubt when you're moving in faith.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is helpful when teachers that you love and respect admit that they themselves have problems often with the same things that we do.
Right.
Because it makes, I don't know, not that I feel good about my doubts or whatever, but it does help me to be okay with feeling like I'm still exercising my faith and growing, even if there's a little bit of doubt mixed in there. Like,
yeah, totally. You know? Well, and it removes a tool out of the devil's toolkit called shame. Mm-hmm. So us having and being transparent with each other and the people that we're kind of farther down the road on in our walk, instead of pretending that we have everything perfect, it actually removes the tool of shame out of the devil's toolkit, because I can say, hey, that's okay, but let's press in even more. Mm-hmm. And I think hiding and kind of creating a false, perfect environment is actually the cause of a lot of problems, because then people are like, man, I don't have faith like Prudence. I don't have hair like Prudence. I mean, that's actually true, but I don't have faith like Kris Vallotton. So I guess I'm just a loser and God can't use me. So like having the, real discussions and being able to be honest about how things really are is powerful. That's testimony. And how we walked through that. And I think I actually have a clip that is referenced in those notes. I'm not sure if it's the second one or the third one I have, but let's go ahead and watch the second one.
Have you ever noticed that the Lord calls you to can't happen without him? Did you ever notice that have you ever done this? If you're like, here, Lord, here's my strengths. I took the strength finders test and here's 5 of them. And the Lord's like, that's awesome. We won't be using you there. Seriously. Do you know the Apostle Paul was a famous expert in Jewish law? And when he got saved and put into his purpose, the Lord said, we'll put you over the Gentiles. He knows nothing about Gentiles. As a matter of fact, he grew up hating them. And God goes, perfect. We'll put you over the Gentiles. Lord, I know nothing about Gentiles. That's the point. And Peter, who's a fisherman, he goes, who knows nothing about the law? Oh, you'll be over the Jews. I don't know about you, but sometimes you spend your life studying to be expert at something, and God goes, awesome, glad you got 6-year degree. You won't be doing that. What am I going to be doing? You'll be doing this. Lord, I can't sing. I know. We all know. I'd like to point out that when the Lord calls you by faith to something, it's usually something you can't do. It's usually not based on how strong you are at something, unless the Lord gave you a superpower, right? Often the Lord gives us a superpower, not related to our personality, not related to our ability, and he gives us a superpower. And he tells me, like, you're going to write books. I'm like, I can't spell. I can't type. You know, I know speak it too good. It was like, perfect. When people read your books, they'll either know you suck or that you trusted me. And I'm just pointing out that the Lord often calls us to our weakness, and we get scared because we think it's all about us.
Well, I'm super stoked that I'm not special in this. It's really nice to know that other people feel the same as me.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we get this idea, and I mean, actually, it's taught sometimes, and it's written in books, that you'll know what God's called you to because you'll be amazing at it. And I think that we should definitely pay attention to the things that God has given us a predisposition to have a passion about and love and things like that. So I'm not saying, you know, the thing you hate the most, go after that. I'm not saying that, but what I do believe is that there's 2 factors that almost always are in play with our assignment. And the first factor is we're not going to be able to do it fully. We're not going to be able to express it fully without supernatural intervention. So like if God's called us to something and we can totally do it, then he's called us to either something different or something bigger. It's often something bigger. It's not necessarily always something totally different, but something bigger. Because I believe he doesn't call us to something that doesn't require supernatural intervention. Read the Bible. Supernatural intervention was required in pretty much every story that I can think of. The second thing is people. He calls us to these things that require others. And usually what it requires in the others is different than what we are. So he requires us to work with his people that are different than us and him in a supernatural way to fully realize what he made us for. And I think it's very obvious to me that he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So for you cowboys out there that are totally solo on everything, you're not fully realizing what God called you to if you're on your own.
Well, and just think about the expansion of the purpose that God has given you when you are paired with others on it.
Yeah.
Like you said,
strand of many cords, not easily broken. Just the way he designed us, he designed us to need each other. I think there's a couple reasons. One is God, obviously in his infinite wisdom, he knew it had to be that way. But another is that the Bible says that we were designed and made in God's image. So, but we're not perfect. So we're not an accurate representation of God perfectly. But as we work with others and we all grow in maturity and become more and more and more like Jesus, we get a better and better and better picture of what God's like. He expresses who he is through the people that he made.
Right. I think that, I think it's crazy that some of the things that the Lord asks us to do is not the things that we would have thought. I mean, seriously, it's like some sort of weird inside out.
It's upside down kingdom.
Upside down thing where it's nuts. It's nuts. The other thing that I feel like it's worth talking about is that sometimes when we talk about faith and the process of exercising it and whatnot, that we think that we have to have something big that is in our life in order to exercise it.
Right. There's got to be some traumatic or giant thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are things that the Lord has in our lives that are testing us and put us into a testing process. But there's also just the daily things. And I think that we all have our little, depending on how we're built and our types, that we have all these fears that surround them. Mm-hmm. So, but it's really in those daily smaller things that we're able to build faith. So when the bigger things show up, we can climb those mountains or ask them to move, because we've made it through so many of these little things that now when all of a sudden we're faced with something bigger, then we have the confidence and remember the last time that he carried us through them.
Yes. Yes. Testimony.
Yeah. So for instance, there's something like today for me, I'm on the worship team once a month and I don't read music. So all the music that I play on the keyboard is strictly from looking at a chord and knowing where that chord is on the keyboard. But music moves really fast. And of course, when you're one of the main sounds on the instruments, that means there's a lot of pressure on you to get it right. Mm-hmm. And I am definitely prone to wanting to do my job with excellence.
Yeah.
And a part of who I am, knowledge is really important. And so if I'm given a piece of music that has a chord system that I don't normally play in or maybe have never played in before.
Right.
In this case, it's A flat. And
wait, A flat?
Yeah. And I'm looking at this and it's like the
L
entire
sharp.
time I've been on worship team, we've never had a song in A flat. Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Because now I have to go spend a ton of time figuring out what these chords are.
Right.
And not only that, but I have to integrate them into making a song sound really good.
Right.
So this concerns me and it worries me and it bothers me because I don't have that information downloaded yet into my mind to feel good about the job that I can deliver.
Right.
But just this morning I was like thinking about this and, should I complain about this chord to the...
We just need to get you a giant capo to put on the piano.
I don't get a capo. People with guitars get capos blasted.
I mean, I think
anyway,
we can turn a capo on though.
It's a little bit different. And so, I'm just kind of having this little powwow with the Lord about this because I'm like, I feel upset about this and I know it doesn't sound reasonable, but I am upset because, all of these little components and I'm just worried. And the Lord, he's like, hey, you remember that time a long time ago when I asked you to say yes to something that you didn't know was behind? Like you had a preliminary idea of what you were saying yes to and you didn't want to do it.
Yeah. What are you going to tell us what it is?
Well, it was about moving across the country and taking a job that involved being a parent to 10 to 12 teenagers when I was 23.
Oklahoma, huh?
But, you know, he's helping me recall these points where it's like, you said yes. And then I changed the job description on you last minute that was more fitting to who you were.
Right.
But you
said
yes. So, you know, there's
you
like,
didn't have to sacrifice your son. Worked out okay.
yes. Anyway, but where I'm going with this is like, yes, I remember this, and you know, all the other million times that I thought I wasn't going to survive something, and I'm still alive.
Yeah. I'm
still living and operating, and, you know, just, trusting that he's going to change the chord of that song.
Wait, you think he is? But he hasn't yet.
Well, I mean, it has happened before. Or B, he's going to help me understand the knowledge that I need to get my feet under it, to get it right.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a growth experience in my own musical self that I need at this time in my life. Maybe I do need to play a song in A flat for whatever reason, just to help me round me out a little bit more. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But, anyway, this is basically a smaller exercise of faith where it's like, well, you know, you asked me to play, so I'm doing that, but you know, I'm freaking out about this.
I didn't know you meant A flat, right. Lord.
What about this?
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's just something that I'm dealing with this week amongst a bunch of other things, but, the little things that the Lord wants us to give to him in faith and just tell him, look, I don't like this. I don't know what I'm doing. This scares me.
Right.
I'm agitated by this. So, you know, if I say yes, then I'm going to have to believe that you're going to fill in the gap and the holes that I have no clue what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, and that's what faith is, right? It's saying yes when you don't know, and you know good and well it may involve some songs in A flat.
Oh yeah.
But you have to say yes.
A lot of flats that you're going to be saying yes, you'll play when you have no clue what's going to transpire from that.
Yeah. I think that leads us well to this last clip. Let's go ahead and play it.
I mean, we believe for miracles. We believe that God can't. It's not just that God can do the impossible, that he does the impossible. And when you believe that, you know, like you, like us, like people fly from all over the world every Sunday, every week to Bethel, in the healing rooms and Sunday mornings and our conferences. And, you know, they're not just there to hear a good message. They're there because they have 4th-stage cancer, or they haven't seen their son in 10 years and they don't know if he's alive. And I mean, just the craziest stories. I'm sure you have them too. And they're there because they want to be someplace that has hope. You know, he who gives the most hope has the most influence. And so we just have people sitting in our congregation, coming to our conferences, and they come up for prayer and they have the craziest stories. And they're there because they heard that God still heals, that God still delivers, that God does miracles. And people think that, I think the outside world has this idea that people who move in miracles don't have any doubts. Like, we pray for the sick and we're like, we know God's going to heal them, and we don't have this like rational thought that maybe they won't get healed. But the truth is I don't know anybody on our teams. I don't know the person who's running has the best history of miracles, doesn't struggle when they're praying for somebody for a miracle that this may not happen. Like faith is a fight, is my point. No matter how many miracles you've seen, the next one, the one you're in, is still a fight.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a fight. And I think that means we got to be on our game. right, Buckley? We got to be on our game because the enemy is going to use every opportunity possible to cause us to forget, to not remember all of the powerful testimonies that the Lord has done, all the things that he's accomplished, all the miracles that he's put into place. He wants us to forget about it in the moment so that our faith wavers and we begin to doubt.
Right. Well, because, it's not like God is some Ouija board or we can cast the same old spell and get the same old, thing from it,
right,
or whatever, like how the devil operates.
Right.
It's he moves when he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a control that we don't like not having.
We like the safety of knowing things, don't we?
Well, this is true, but we also want to control the circumstances.
Right.
We don't want to go out on a limb and say, hey, I think you can be healed, when it'll come back onto us and we somehow feel responsible,
right,
that God didn't do the healing.
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot easier just to stay away from it and not even talk about it.
Yeah. And I think, Bobby says this thing, I don't know if he came up with it or not, but I learned it from him, is that, faith is spelled R-I-S-K, risk. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. What's needed is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And, we like comfortable things.
Well, and it's another reason why it's important to stay in fellowship with other believers
Totally.
of like minds.
100%.
Because we're not all like-minded in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Because we can help encourage each other when our faith is weak.
Yeah.
Or we can't see past the end of, A flat.
Right.
It's just important to be talking and sharing with each other when we're not feeling good.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to do or to admit, because I think there's this stigma that if you admit that you're having weak faith, then you must be, a loser or, whatever you call it,
Yeah. And the reality is, I love the way Kris talked about this, because I think sometimes if we don't hear that from leaders that seem like they've spent a lifetime pursuing God, and they have, and God has rewarded them to a certain degree, in his faithfulness. If they don't share some of the truth, I think sometimes we can feel like, man, I must be by myself in my own doubts. Kris Vallotton never has any doubts. And the reality is that's just not how it works. And one of the things that Kris, I think also said in this message, by the way, we'll put the link to this message. You absolutely have got to watch it in the show notes, but is that, if you're not going to new places with the Lord that give you pause and cause you to sometimes have some doubt that needs to be renewed and strengthened with the Lord, then you're probably not going where he wants you to go if you're playing it safe. What do you think about that, Prudence? Do you agree with that? If you're playing it safe, you're probably not doing what you're supposed to fully?
Oh, yeah, definitely so.
Oh, yeah, definitely so.
Definitely so. I feel like a lot of the things that the Lord asks me to do or is setting me up to eventually do is stuff that literally makes me want to vomit.
Like what?
Well, I don't want to get into that on the show, but
you don't want to get into a vomit.
It's just so against who I am naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what he calls us out of is that natural place where we are become the very demonstration of power. His power in a person because we know we cannot do it on our own.
Yeah.
And the whole world will know that we cannot do it on our own. We must admit that it's not us that's doing it. It is the
100%.
Lord. And so he takes us and he puts us in places where we feel like we don't have the confidence to go.
Right.
Because,
Well, and we don't.
it becomes
without
about
the Lord, right?
becomes about us if it's different.
Yeah. Well, and actually, truly, we don't have what's needed without the Lord, right? I mean, that's really what you're saying also, right?
Right.
So.
And sometimes, for those of us that feel like we are naturally inclined to be in a shell, like a little hermit crab, that's me. Courage is talking, it's stepping out. And for those that feel like it's no big deal to take that microphone and just yap it up or whatever.
Yap it up?
Like perhaps courage for you is shutting your mouth.
Are you saying that I need to shut my mouth?
I'm just saying, like, if that's what it takes.
That's what she's saying, right, Jason?
I'm just saying. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. I think what you're saying, without directly pointing your little phalanges at me, is that some people feel comfortable, like let's say public speaking, like you don't feel amazing about that. So if God's calling you to that, it's hard. It's like a big, scary step, and you got to step out in faith to do something like that. Somebody that feels comfortable with that, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not supposed to do it, but maybe they need to be quiet when they feel like they have to say something. And that's also a step for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is for sure, I fully 100% have experienced in my own life that a lot of what God has called me to, I feel like I am not able to do. I feel like it's kind of like, when, I mean, there's so many examples in scripture, but the one that always comes to my mind is when God asked Moses to go, do the thing. And he's like, man, I don't know. I can't. I need somebody to help me speak because I'm.
You mean go back to talk to Pharaoh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
did lots of things. So
no,
you need to be more specific.
So when he said, hey, I'm going to send Aaron with you.
Yeah.
I this isn't in scripture. This is like a Kris bonus. Kris, 2 Kris chapter 2, verse 7, where what I think is that he didn't need Aaron actually. God was going to like supernaturally empower him, but in his mercy, he's like, okay, let me just take a little bit of the stress off. We'll send Aaron with you as well. But I think God would have empowered Moses to do what he needed to do. But also how amazing and gracious and merciful God is. He's like, okay, I see this is really stressing you out. I'm still going to make you do it, but I'll send Aaron with you also. That'll just lower the pressure a little bit. Obviously I'm adding all that. It's not in the Bible. I feel like that's likely what was happening here, because God didn't say, hey, I'm sending Aaron with you. Go do this. He said, go do this. And then Moses was like, I don't think I can pull this off. I don't speak good. I need somebody to help me. And then God said, fine, here you go. So I think this shows two sides. He's calling us to things that we aren't equipped to do on our own. He wants us to go do things that are beyond our ability. That's why faith is spelled risk. And then it takes a supernatural involvement, and it takes other people's. Like you see all that in that one story. You kind of see how all these things play together. But all of that points to this reality that if we're not doing things that are beyond what feels safe and comfortable and like in our sweet spot, so to speak, then we're for sure not stepping fully into what God has for us. And it's just true.
But it's hard, Kris.
Maybe you should suck it up and quit being a wimp about it.
It's really hard to do.
What I have come to see is that most things that are worth doing are hard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's true.
Doesn't mean all things that are hard are worth doing, but most things that are worth doing are hard. And I think we need a little bit less, how can I make this easier? God, will you do this for me? And a little more, let's do hard things. I think we need to do more hard things. I think we need to teach the people in our church to do hard things. I think we need to teach our kids to do hard things. And I think we need to teach ourselves to do hard things. And we need to stop being wimps about stuff.
And that's why I'm going to go learn the song in A flat.
We may be able to transpose that with the keyboard automatically for you, but that would be like a supernatural intervention if we did that. Bum, bum,
No, it
bum.
would be a supernatural intervention. And Lord, I'm not opposed to this. If you would just speak to the leaders of the song set.
I mean, I could text them right now
Have
and say,
them
listen,
change the key.
you need to change things up for Prudence because she's a little bit paranoid. No, actually, I think you're going to be amazing. Maybe we'll put the link to the worship service that you're talking about, which hasn't happened yet. But by the time this airs,
we'll talk about
it
that
will
later.
have.
We'll see how it's
You guys,
gone.
thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like this message from Kris was super powerful. What's required for where we're going as a church, Big C, big church, and all of us individually, and the faith that's needed to get us there. It's super encouraging, powerful message. We'll put the link in the show notes. You need to check it out. Also, see this amazing cup? It says "Together We Build" on it. I think you need this. And you can get this at krisandprudence.com. Seriously, though, we've got some merch. It's shameless plug. Shameless. I'm actually not embarrassed. My kids are like, Dad, quit with the plug on the merch. No, like this helps us actually support the show. So definitely go get that stuff. We've got cool stuff there. Plus our books, my books, Prudence's books. Go check that stuff out. Also, you can go to eaglemountain.global. You can support this program. It's produced by Eagle Mountain TV. You can find other episodes of this program plus other super awesome programs, all on the eaglemountain.global website. Click the TV button, and we will see you guys on the next episode. See you
on
there.
the next one. We'll see
ya.
you.
Thank you for watching Together We Build with Kris and Prudence. To learn more about this and other amazing programs, visit eaglemountain.global. To learn more about Kris and Prudence and the ministries they serve, visit krisandprudence.com.